Welcome to the Emblazers, the show for B2B Leaders Igniting Revenue. I'm your host, Amanda DeFlucht, and I am joined by my colleague, Tim Reister. Some might call him the James Bond of psychology.
Shaken.
Not stirred. Hi, Tim. It's great to see you.
Hey, Amanda. Good to see you, too. We have a live one today, I feel.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we should just be more fun in the intro because of what we're about to hear.
It's so exciting. I'm like, I already want to do episode 2 with Stefanie. So Stefanie Boyer's joining us, and we're talking all things mental health and more. I'm curious, why is this an important topic?
Yeah, when we asked Stefanie about that, because she's going to speak at our conference on this topic. So first of all, that's why we have her on, is let's do a little tease for the conference. But trust me, there's plenty of meat here. You're gonna get a lot out of it. And the big deal is this. I mean, sales is hard, and it's not getting easier, whether it's the buyer disrupting the buyer's journey or the challenges of AI and what that means, and the general rejection that comes with selling. Mental health is real when it comes to sales. So as Stefanie's put a lot of her energy and time as a professor of sales and running a sales bachelor program, she knows a lot about sellers, and she's put a lot of time into understanding how to meet them where they're at in this area.
It is well worth listen. Some unconventional but effective ways to drive positive mental health in your sellers. So come take a listen. Our guest today, Dr. Stefanie Boyer, is a leading researcher and educator shaping the future of sales talent. As a marketing professor at Bryant University, she specializes in developing the next generation of sellers, focusing on the intersection of sales performance, mental resilience, and cutting-edge learning methodologies. Her research explores the psychological demands of sales, how leaders can foster healthier, more sustainable sales environments, and the evolving role of AI in training and coaching. TEDx speaker and Forbes Next 1000 entrepreneur, Stefanie has authored multiple books, including the Audible series that you can get your hands on, The 6 Sales Skills Everyone Should Know. She's a passionate advocate for equipping sellers with the emotional and strategic sales skills that they need to thrive in high-pressure professions. I'm so excited that you're here, Stefanie. It's very great to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
And, hey, Tim's there too. Hey, Tim. It's always good to see you, buddy.
All right. Well, it's good to be here. Thanks for acknowledging that I'm part of this this holy trinity here today. Stefanie, it's always great to see you, and we're excited to have you coming to the Emblaze conference, and we're excited to have you tease a little bit of that out today. But in that intro, all the things, the EQ of sales and the mental health of sales, it's like you're the godmother of sales. It feels like, and I just saw, this wasn't in the intro, that you were named like one of the top 50 professors. Is that right? In the US, in the world, in the galaxy? What was it?
In Poets and Quants, yes. Very surprised and humbled to receive that. Yes.
Yeah, it's not like top 50 sales professors. We're talking,
Wow, that's amazing.
See? You didn't know, Amanda, that we had
a
rock star in our midst.
I need your autograph when I see you in Denver, because that's really awesome. Congratulations.
I need to talk to you guys more often. You're just boosting me up here. I love it.
This is how we roll. We're so affirming. No, you bring that out in us as the godmother of sales. I'm just going to go with that from now on. And if it's patently offensive, I apologize. But I am curious. The thing you are going to talk about in one of our featured sessions is mental health related to sales. And I got to admit, like that, now when I think about it and the amount of hard and including rejection and just the pressures, the do more with less sort of pressures, mental health and sales almost seems synonymous. What does it look like? What is it that you're studying, and how are you helping?
Sure. Well, I've been doing a study with a group of researchers for about 2 years now, really understanding the impact of sales coaching on mental health and the role that managers play. And we're just seeing some things that are surprising and a little bit upsetting. You see sellers in remote environments that are feeling isolated. If you have new sellers that are starting out, they're struggling to feel what it's like to be a part of the team or to be a part of the organization or understanding the culture. And we're also seeing many managers that are new. They're just coming into their roles. They're not getting great training when it comes to being leaders or when it comes to coaching their teams. And it's creating a lot of mental health issues like burnout, depersonalization, even depression, because managers don't know how to support their teams. Some of them are just promoted into management because they were really good sellers. And so now you're seeing organizations who have lost their best sellers, and those sellers have become managers who are making everybody want to leave the organization. So we are seeing a lot of turmoil when it comes to management and when it comes to the impact that it's having on mental health.
All right. Other than that, so talk to me. Like, our audience is primarily first line, frontline managers, directors, but people who are in charge of people. And many of them, maybe exactly as you described, recently promoted. And so this podcast and the conference are really for them. Without giving away, because we want everybody to show up in April, without giving it all away, what are some of the things? Are there any silver bullets? Like, what have you found?
Well, we are excited about some of the things that we found, and we are going to do some things. There's nothing that I can say here that is going to replace the experience that we are going to have. People are going to be having a great time. They're going to be cackling, and they're going to be learning, cackling like in a good way, like laughter, like loud laughter, I think, and shouting in the room as always. But what we've seen work is some resilience training, improv activities, and of course, practice. Practice is probably one of the most important things that we can do.
Yeah,
I'm so curious. Like, can after we're done recording, can like you tell me some of these things? Because I'm like, I can't wait till April to know this.
Well, you tried a few of them last year, and we could hear you down the halls. Like, it was like somebody go tell that room to calm down a little bit. And we always get great reviews on your sessions, so folks, you're not going to want to miss it. It's therapeutic cackling, is what we like to say. But there's a couple of things in there. All cackling aside, practicing and getting coaching and getting feedback, such a hard thing. Everybody says it needs to be done. It needs to be done. I know that you dabble in AI, so that's another thing that we hope to have you talk about a little bit is how do people get the amount of coaching they need, the depth, the quality of coaching they need, sort of the continuous coaching that they need. Is it possible for humans to do that? Is it required that they do that, or is help on the way to surrogate that?
Well, AI has certainly helped us to be able to support our people in a way that's more meaningful. And what we know from the research, I published a meta-analysis looking at how employees are supported and the support that they're perceiving that they're getting and how that impacts a variety of different things like their performance, their satisfaction with the organization, their commitment to the organization. All of these are impacted with the amount of support that they're getting. It's no secret that it takes quite a bit of practice to begin to get better. It takes a lot of practice with qualified feedback, right? You don't want to just practice things the wrong way. Then you're creating and you're reinforcing bad habits. That's a concept I talk about called the practice paradox. Is that, yes, we need a lot of practice and we think that if we do more practice, we'll get better. But sometimes if that practice isn't great, we end up getting worse. Like you mentioned, you need a person maybe to do practice with you. Well, what happens if that person isn't ready? What if that person doesn't know what good looks like? What if that manager doesn't know how to simulate what the call is going to sound like? Or the manager could just be tired at the end of the day. It takes about 30 practice plays of a role play in order to really begin to see significant improvement in selling skills. It just takes a few role plays to start to get comfortable having the conversation, but to really see a huge difference in skill, it takes time. And managers do not have the time. It's impossible. So what ends up happening is those salespeople are practicing on the customers because there's just not enough time to really prepare them properly from, human to humans. So we're seeing a lot of improvement and decreases in ramp time when you're looking at AI coming in to supplement. And we're also seeing some initial improvements when it comes to mental health, especially when you're looking at women.
So what's the correlation there? Maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, women tend to want more feedback and different feedback from men. So that's one thing that's a little bit different. We also have some challenges when you have a man giving feedback to a woman giving feedback to a woman, the emotional challenges, the relationship, feeling like you don't belong within the organization. Just getting access to coaching and feedback sometimes is difficult for certain people in the organization. And what we're seeing is when the students and when the trainees are getting feedback from the AI, they say things like, I didn't feel like it was judging me. I felt like I was in a safe place. And I tell them the AI was literally designed to judge you and give you feedback. But when you're using AI, you're in a safe place. So you're able to create psychological safety for your sellers, and they can practice as much as they need to before they, do this in front of a room full of people or get in front of the customer. They get enough feedback knowing that they're doing it right. They're doing all the things. And so that way, if the sale doesn't go the way that they want it to, or if the customer says no, then at least they knew what they were supposed to do and they could go in with confidence.
30 practices. That's what I took away from there. So that's a real number. You've found that, you've identified that that's a threshold that matters.
Yes. We have looked at thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands actually, of role plays using AI. And what we see is that, yes, some people get it in, 5 role plays and they're really good. They're fast learners. They're intentional. They're doing purposeful practice. And some people, they take a lot longer. And so when we look at the averages, when you have people that have experience, you have people that are brand new, some are fast learners, some are slower learners. We're seeing it takes about 30 practices on average and about 40 to 50 to really get to that like 95% mastery. It takes a lot of practice. Think about anything that you're trying to memorize or, anything that you're doing a new way. The longer you've been doing it a different way, the harder it is to be able to adapt because not only do you have to learn something, you have to unlearn what you were doing previously. I know sometimes our power goes out in our house and, or my husband is working on the water, like something. And he's like, don't turn on the water. Or, if you go to the bathroom, don't flush the toilet. And I automatically do those things. And I feel terrible because I'm flooding the house because he's got the pipe open or something. And so even though we know what we're supposed to do, even though we know why we're supposed to do it, sometimes it's just the habits that are really hard to break.
Well, then you connected the dots between that, a level of proficiency, and then I would argue then maybe a level of confidence that then goes towards mental health, and that getting practice and getting coaching 30 times, it could feel like hard, but you're saying that getting good at that and getting that kind of feedback then contributes positively to the mental health piece. So it sort of feels like when we exercise, we feel better too. So maybe would that be could I equate those two, that exercise produces something that makes us feel more energy and happier? Practice and role play can make us as a salesperson feel more energetic and happier?
I think that is a perfect analogy. I go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning. I leave my house and I never feel like doing it when I wake up at that time. But every time I walk out of the gym, I feel so much better about myself, about my day. I have more energy. And it's the same thing. Most people do not like to role play. They don't want to practice. They don't like putting themselves out there. But once you start doing it and you create that habit of practice, and you're getting feedback and you see yourself getting better, you see where you started and you can see where you're going, it's so motivating. And you go into these calls ready to take the call because you know you're ready. But when you have to go into a call and you don't feel like you've been trained, you're not sure what you're supposed to say, then you're already setting yourself up for failure because you're going in second guessing yourself. You're going in with negative thoughts and they're filling up your mind and they're eating away at your cognitive resources. You only have so much that your mind can process at any moment. And so when you fill your mind up with self-doubt because you're not ready, then you're not going to perform as well as you would if you went in with confidence, knowing what you're supposed to say and ready to start doing things like empathizing and listening and really being present in the moment.
So you mentioned practice and confidence and competence being positive for outcomes and impact, but also for mental health. You mentioned things like remoteness and culture, or lack of culture connectivity. What are some other things that are affecting mental health? And then how do you overcome them? Because sales is, for many people, unless you're in a hub in an inside sales organization, it is a remote job. It's just part of the gig. In fact, I feel like that's why some people take it. But yet you're saying potentially the thing we want
Mm.
is contributing to our mental health challenges.
Right. I mean, there's so many ups and downs when it comes to sales anyways. And when things are not going your way and you're remote, then it makes it really challenging to just pick yourself back up. So just that remoteness of the job, even if you have an office to come to, you might be, with a client, or you might be working in a different location. You're not going to have a team around you. So that can be really challenging, just not having the people in place there to support you when you're on the roller coaster that sales is.
So what what if anything? Don't know if you have any magic in there like the practice piece. What do you have for that to that you've seen that actually works to maybe fill that gap?
Well, not everybody has the benefit of having a great manager, but being able to check in with the manager, having a way to go over how the call went, helping managers just to understand that they need to coach and listen and be there to support their people, helping them understand that they're there to support their people. That's huge. But salespeople can create their own practices that can help. And I know on the calls that we have with students, we've created a community for students and faculty to come together and they share best practices and how do you pick yourself up and what are some of the things that they're doing. So they typically have some music that they can listen to depending on what has happened. They have people in the organization that they can rely on, but then they're also part of a bigger community because sometimes you're in an organization and you feel like you're on an island and you're alone and you don't have the flexibility to be able to just leave and take another job somewhere with the manager that is your favorite person, right? So being able to have groups of people that are in similar positions that you're in, um, getting a mentor, getting 5 mentors that can help you along the way, and then also finding some mentees because sometimes it can just totally make your day if you're able to help somebody else. And then just having that mindset that if you're having something that you're seeing as a failure, really, it's just an opportunity to learn. And if it's really bad, then you're probably not going to make that same mistake again.
Stephanie, there's the age old debate we've been talking about humans versus AI. I want to just go back for just a second as I'm listening to you and this idea of feeling more comfortable in the safe space from like a coaching perspective, and you're getting to practice. Excuse me, the practicing part. What about the coaching part? Does what does the research say, or your thoughts, your observations about now I'm a salesperson and I need to get the feedback? Is it better coming from an AI, or is it better coming from my manager?
I don't think it's one or the other. AI is great to build up a lot of foundational skills. It's a really good tool for a manager to tap into. Imagine you've done 10 or 15 practice conversations, and now your manager can go and look at the data insights. Now, that manager, instead of spending all that time on a call with you or on 5 calls with you, trying to sort through what you're seeing, now that manager can look at the data and to identify those areas where you need a little bit more support, or maybe when it comes to AI, you're just not getting it. So I think that it goes hand in hand. The AI helps and supports the seller so that they have 24/7 support and training, no matter where they are, no matter what time it is, whenever they want to do the training. And then they can use that as a tool to get more support from their manager. They can show their results to their manager, to say, listen, here's my results and here's where I'm getting stuck. Or the manager can proactively look at that and come to the meeting prepared to talk about those areas where the seller really needs the most coaching and support. So I think it can really make those times that they have together so much more meaningful and productive.
Yeah. Give the manager the scale that they've needed. There's also AI therapists out there. I've tried those websites. They're
How's
actually
it
not
how's it
bad.
working out for you?
I feel amazing. Um, uh, so what I really appreciate about this is that blend. I also love, Amanda, how you're like the age old question of AI versus humans, like age old, like 6 months old. I mean,
I mean, how many? I mean, at this
barely a
point, we've
toddler.
said literally AI like 9,000 times a day. I feel
Right.
like
It makes it feel
it's
like it's
over.
been around forever, but
Yeah.
and we're still getting our arms around it. That's for sure.
Join hundreds of B2B revenue leaders at Emblaze Revenue Summit 2025, powered by Corporate Visions in Denver, April 15th through 17th. Connect with top CROs, gain exclusive insights, and get buyer-centric playbooks from experts and peers. Reignite your sales leadership with evidence-based approaches you can start using the next day. Will we see you at the Ultimate Conference for Revenue Leaders? Visit cvi.to/summit to secure your spot at Emblaze Revenue Summit 2025.
So, Stephanie, when you take a look at all that's on the horizon relative to AI, and think about where it can impact, you're training the sellers of the future. So let me just start with that. That part of your job is to graduate people who are going to sell in an environment where everybody's like, oh my gosh, are we going to need sellers? And yet you're training these sellers. What are you training them on? What are you making them most ready for? And how will a seller in the future be different than maybe today? And when we think of what AI will do versus what's left over for the seller to be good at.
Those are good questions. So we are really focusing on problem solving skills, critical thinking skills. We're focusing on data, how to take insights from data and to be able to present those to our customers. We're spending a lot of time on practicing the conversation. What I've seen is some of these AI tools make you sound like you are so thoughtful, like you're so smart. And at some point, you're going to have to actually face the music and talk to the customer. And so if you cannot match that level of empathy and caring and support and insight and all of this that AI helps us to look better than we are, if you can't have a conversation, that customer is going to show up and they're going to say, who are you? This is not at all who I thought I was talking to. And they're going to be disappointed and they're going to reset their perception and their attitude, and they're not going to want to have anything to do with you. So we focus quite a bit on that conversation. I also teach my students how to be supportive in sales management classes, how to show empathy, how to coach, how to have difficult conversations, how to be more of a servant leader. And of course, our students need to have proficiency in using AI tools. So, how can we use AI in order to do better research, to target and identify the better people to reach out to? We don't want to do the spray and pray approach. Since we have AI and automation, now we can reach out to thousands of people at a time. No, we're trying to use it to teach them how to have more constructive and strategic outreach with research. And we're looking at ways that we can apply AI into every part of the sales process.
Wow, there's a lot there from the standpoint of what is distinctly human, problem solving, critical thinking, having the actual conversation, to then being able to use the technology, leverage the data to find insights, use AI for good constructive research that begets personalization. And somewhere in there, you said something that like it was like, hey, if you can't add more value than the AI, then you're out of luck. That's interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody sort of put it that way, that there's an expectation that's built where the AI knows stuff. Like you can get smart really fast on your products and maybe even on technical stuff. And now you're going to open your mouth and it's like, where will I add value? What's left for me to add value? And better make sure you do, because they got a lot of questions answered potentially by the AI. So what are there any particular skills? You said problem solving, critical thinking. Anything else that I should be practicing and as a manager practicing my team on, because that's going to be the difference maker of the future?
Improv. As much
Improv, like comedy, like yes and?
Improv, yes, and anything that you can do to get people to adapt, think on their feet. This is huge. I've seen it improve so many things. It can improve confidence. It can improve empathy. It helps even out the differences when it comes to gender in sales. Just giving the confidence that students need, starting to feel comfortable, even though they're in uncomfortable situations, and knowing that they can get through it, that they don't always have to have an answer to everything. But I love improv as a way to start a conversation, to start training, maybe to break up training, and just to get people in that mindset where they're just nimble.
This is really helpful given that Tim is my boss. So in our next one-on-one, if there's a random top hat and improv that we're doing, now I know where he got it from.
Well, that was the funny thing, or the ironic. I said the word funny. You didn't talk about humor really at all when you said improv. I'm right. Our minds usually go right to humor. It was about nimble, adapting, empathy, fast on your feet, confidence, comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Nothing about, and be funny, because I think that's people like, I'm not a funny person. But it's not about necessarily being able to just nail it when it comes to being humorous, because humor is hard to do well. So it sounds like when you say improv, it's a bigger idea than just being funny. But how important is being funny?
I think being funny is really important. I mean, it can be disarming. And if you can be funny in a conversation, in a professional way, of course,
Right.
I think it opens people up to wanting to hear more from you, right? We're constantly needing to buy, but not wanting to talk to salespeople sometimes. So if you can change things up a little bit and make someone laugh, someone calls me and tells me a joke, or, just takes me off guard a little bit, then usually I'll just give them a few minutes at least on a phone call. So yeah, that the thing is that we're not usually practicing traditional improv. We've taken some improv games and we've applied them to sales. And you can do these little drills that take 30 seconds, that take 5 minutes, maybe longer, but it's just practicing thinking on our feet, being able to solve problems under pressure. These are skills that sellers need to have.
I think if I can just add to that, coming in from this perspective of going back to sort of feeling that isolation, that burnout, it's you're doing also these activities that sort of promote culture too, right? Just here in this couple of seconds we've been talking about it, right? We're laughing, we're giggling. I mean, that also is then promoting that mental health, right, in the workplace. Like there's this connection, even though we're not together, but we're still feeling that togetherness. I love that. I can't wait for T minus whenever we drop this episode to literally join your session.
That was a shameless plug for the conference, Stefanie. So everybody, we're just going to clear the decks during your time slot. Those poor other slobs who have to compete. But I think if improv could replace golf, I might extend my career. I've never golfed, and they've made it such a part of selling that I'm like, ooh, if we could make improv part of selling, I'm in it for the long haul. So, well, Stefanie, when I first met you, and I'm like, I gotta spell your name right because there's other spellings for Stefanie. You said it's with an F. I think you or I said for fabulous. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't want to put that on you. I probably said it, but now I'm going to make it F for fun because that's part of what you're bringing and what you're recommending. And you got data on that. I'm assuming you've studied that. And improv it's not just because, but you as a professor, this stuff works.
That's right. We actually published an article in the Journal of Selling on improv. And what we noticed was students that were coming into the classes and adults that were coming into our sales training. We were looking at the differences between the women and the men because we noticed that there was something going on, but we didn't exactly know what it was. And we saw that women came in and their levels of confidence were lower than the men. So the men came in, they were like, I can do this. I'm amazing. Even if they were the worst in the room that they were competing in, they thought that they did really well. When the women would compete, they could win their room and they might come out upset that they didn't do a very good job. But then the women would come in and they would have a lot of empathy, but the men just didn't have that same level of empathy. Well, we started doing improv training. And what we found was it boosted the level of confidence for women. And for men, it boosted their empathy levels. So improv can come in and do a lot of good.
And I keep hearing a lot about active listening. It feels like that would because you got to lean in and because you're picking up where everything's leaving off, and it seems like that would drill that skill set too in maybe a non-traditional way where all of a sudden, oh, I strengthened a muscle I didn't even know I was working.
Yes, absolutely. People are having such a good time and they don't even realize it, how much they're learning.
Oh, well, I can't say enough. I'm so excited to have you joining us at Summit. I've learned so much here. I almost feel like we need to do a follow-up after Summit so we can talk about some of the things that you're sharing during that time. Stefanie, it's so great to have had you on the Emblazers show, and can't wait to see you soon.
Me too. See you there.
Those are some really incredible insights, Tim.
Yeah, I encouraging for the struggling seller who now knows they're not alone, and the manager who now knows some things they can do to help encourage their team and ensure their mental health and a job that's arguably a really hard job.
100%. And so we're doing it in a way that's a different approach. And I'm so incredibly excited to hear more from Stefanie at Summit. And perhaps you are too. So make sure that you go to emblazgrowth.com, learn more about how you can register for Summit, and get to hear Stefanie along with a lot of other great practitioners and researchers. And be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching this podcast. We will see you next time on The Emblazers Show. See ya.